Want to just take a few minutes to recognize our senior class. This will be our last home game, and even though I've only been here a year, I really appreciate what that group has done for the entire program, and certainly for the year. They know the time I've spent with them going back to the spring training camp and during the season. It's a group that's mixed with players who have been here for their career, but also players who have come in for their final year of eligibility here that are part of that group. And so, just collectively, some of them are captains. Obviously, a lot of them aren't, but, as a whole, they've given us, a lot of leadership, a lot of experience, not just in football, but, off the field and setting a good example for our younger players and some of our new players on, whether it be academics or, things related to football, community service, so forth. It's really, it's been a good group, and I know you hear from some of those guys, so much appreciation to them, and they've been a great group for me to work with. For Duke, I mean, obviously, a big rivalry game here for us. This game means a lot to people in Carolina, people at UNC, people at Duke. It's obviously a big division here, and that's what makes these games exciting and fun and super competitive. So everybody knows each other pretty well, and looking forward to being a participant in this event. Have a ton of respect for Manny. I think he's really, has been a really good coach. I've learned a lot from spending time with him and talking football with him on multiple occasions when he was at Miami, as a defensive coordinator, when he was head coach there, Penn State, and even, a little bit at Duke last year. One of my former coaches is there, works on his defensive staff, worked for him at Penn State. So I have a lot of familiarity with how he coaches, the job he does, and he's an excellent coach. And I think thought he handled the Miami situation, Penn State, and obviously Duke the year they had last year, and just watching them compete is impressive. I have a lot of respect for him. Mensa, I saw him play in person last year. Was super impressed with him. This guy's a really, really good quarterback. I think he's the best quarterback we've faced, and we faced some good quarterbacks, but this guy is really, it reminds me of an NFL quarterback. He's got great presence in the pocket. He does an excellent job of seeing coverages, seeing receivers. He's very accurate down the field. He's got good throwing mechanics. He can certainly run and get out of trouble and avoid the rush and extend plays, but he's not out there running around trying to be a running back. He's a quarterback and a really good one. So when I saw him play last year, I didn't really know a lot about him, but the more I watched him play, of course he had a great year with Tulane. The more I watched him play, the more impressed I was with him. And we caught him in some crossover games this year, and of course now getting ready for him this week. The closer you look, the more impressive he is to me. They got a good group of receivers, good returners. So the receivers are also the returners, and have a solid running game too. So they're an explosive team offensively, and in the kicking game with their return game. Defensively, they have a very good front. Those guys are very disruptive up front. Starting with Williams, but it's really all of them. They do a good job of, causing negative plays, putting pressure on the quarterback. They're a hard group to handle. They can definitely ruin a game with, strip sacks, batted balls, tackles for loss, things like that. So, handling them is every team's challenge when you play Duke. Certainly that'll be the case, for us on Saturday. So, good football team, well coached, and again, I know our players as well as our staff. We're excited for the competition and excited for to participate in the rivalry and And for the seniors, the great opportunity for them and our team, on our last home game this season.
We start with questions. Go ahead, Noah.
Hey, Bill. Madrid Tucker played 55 snaps against Virginia. Sort of fizzled out from there. And then Dewan June, I think, after that Syracuse game, had 11 snaps and only 3 or 4 carries. Just what goes into the highly fluctuating snap count for some of those guys, like Madrid and Dewan?
Yeah, sometimes it's game plan. Sometimes it's, it's called availability. Yeah, it could be a number of factors. Again, that we don't go into any game with a set, this guy's going to catch so many passes, this guy's going to carry the ball so many times. That could vary by game plan, by the way the game plays out. So big thing is for everybody to be ready to go and take advantage of their opportunities when they come. And they're not the same every week. So that's the way we approach it. But whatever guys, you can read off another group of guys that did more in another week and another group of guys that did less. That's probably the way it's going to go a lot of weeks.
Bill, 10 weeks in, 10 games in, 9 for Gio. What are some tangible areas of improvement you've seen him make since week 1?
Overall, our passing yardage and decision making in the passing game has gotten a lot better, and that's really, starts with him, including some decisions he makes in terms of run pass options or plays that could go either way, either before or after the snap, depending on how it's called. Protection adjustments, things like that. It's not perfect. We're not there yet where we want to be, but it's certainly gotten a lot better.
Very quickly, if I can, is one of those things knowing when not to throw it sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, taking care of the ball is the number one thing. That's number one on the hit parade offensively, is to not give the defense the ball. So if they don't touch it, then they can't get it. So making sure that they don't get their hands on the ball, they don't strip sack it, they don't tip passes, we don't throw it where their defenders can get their hands on it. Then at least we know we're going to have it at the end of the down. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bill, how would you describe the sense of urgency you've seen from the guys in the last few days, especially with it being Senior Day Saturday and needing to win to keep the postseason hopes alive too?
Yeah, it's been good. We had a good day yesterday, but honestly, it's been kind of like that all year. These guys have come ready to work every day, and some days end up better than others. But that's in terms of being ready to prepare to practice, being ready to practice. Going out there and playing with good energy and enthusiasm. It's been pretty solid all year. But you could see a little uptick yesterday in practice, and certainly there's a higher level of urgency, but I wouldn't say it's gone from 0 to 100. It's ticked up a little bit, but it's been pretty consistent all year, and we've shown improvement through a lot of the season, and I think that's reflective of stringing days together. Thanks, Rob.
Right next to Coach. Yeah, Bill. Obviously, the other day against Wade, when it comes to scoring and the offensive yardage, kind of a step back from where they've been. Looking at the season, I guess in totality, the offense, probably not in a place where maybe you want it if you look at scoring and offensive yardage, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what, in your opinion, has kind of been, the difficult elements of having a level of consistency when it comes to offense and having, a higher scoring offense?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, not just one. I don't think it's just one play or one thing. It's a combination of things, and we all just need to do a better job. We need to do a better job of coaching. We need to do a better job of execution. We need to do a better job with our communication. We missed some opportunities that we, would like to have back and wish we could have hit, but we didn't hit them, and we have to live with that. So we'll keep working harder to make those opportunities count and try to keep creating them. And hopefully we can capitalize on those. But the things that we're doing, fairly well, we want to try to keep doing those. The things that we need to do better, we want to try to improve on those, and that changes a little bit from week to week as we see different opponents, different schemes, different players. It's not the same every single week. So, even if we fix something from last week, it might not even come up this week, based on the way that, Duke plays as an example. They play things differently than Wake Forest does. So we have to adjust to that. So the next time we get a situation from a previous game. It might be a week or two away, or it might come up the next week, So that's what we're working for. Hopefully we'll be ready when it happens.
Bill, you talked about how much this rivalry means to people around here. I'm curious, when you would talk to your dad about his time here, did he ever mention what it was like coaching in this game, competing in this game?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it was the game. It was the game. I mean, I don't think it's Army Navy, but it's that type of game. And my whole life I've been involved and grew up in an Army Navy rivalry. I was a little too young for the Duke UNC rivalry before we left Chapel Hill and went to Annapolis. But from the time I was the littlest kid in Annapolis, it was Army Navy. It was it was 10 games, and then there was, or however many games there were, and then it was Army. And so, here you got a couple other state games like Wake Forest, NC State, and App State. Those are big rivalry games too. But, Dukes, that's it.
Far left from the front.
I guess just on that, when you pride yourself on just teaching these players about the history of their opponents, you spoke about that the whole year. I'm just curious how much the victory bell has come up in that conversation. If so, what maybe share with them about that as part of this kind of rivalry tradition between us?
I think that's part of the build-up for the week. But yeah, we'd like to change the color on the victory bell.
Back, center, left.
Yeah, but WRL had a report about some of the driving records of some of your players, and I just wondered if they have a duty to report to you or the coaching staff if you guys were aware of some of the trouble they've gotten in with speeding and reckless driving, if they face any discipline, and if the program is doing anything to talk to them about that or trying to curb that behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. We look, our conduct outside of the building, outside of the program, is important to us, and we stress that. And yeah, we've addressed multiple things, not just that, but other things. There are other things that go on besides driving that we've talked about. Absolutely.
Front right, coach.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned Derry Mensah, and his ability to move out of the pocket and everything like that. And I know last week you guys dealt with Robbie Ashford, who's kind of similar in terms of his mobility, and there's a lot of defensive breakdowns. How important is communication in this game, especially when you're going against that explosive passing attack like Dukes?
Yeah, communication is always important, but I don't really see much of a comparison between Ashford and Mensah. I mean, they're two totally different players in my mind. So I just don't. This Mensah now is this guy's like an NFL passer. I don't know how good he is as far as whether he can play in the NFL. I'm not making a comment on that, but the way he plays like an NFL quarterback. He's not. Could he run the power play? I'm sure he could, but that's not really what he does. He throws accurately. He makes good decisions. He sees coverages as well as any quarterback we faced. If you make a mistake in the secondary, you should expect to pay for it. I just think he's the best we've seen at that.
Second one, left, coach.
Coach, we talk a lot about the offense, but the defense took a step back against Wake Forest there. What did you see from specifically the defensive front that maybe some of the effort issues on the back end there, especially on that long touchdown?
Yeah, well, there were two long touchdown plays, and then they had two drives that we had multiple chances to end and get off the field on, and we weren't able to do it. So they scored 4 touchdowns, and that's what happened.
Front right.
Going back to some of the fluctuating snap counts, do you feel like at all for these players it's hard for them to get into a rhythm, and sort of how do you balance, like for example the running backs with having 4 to 5 guys play every game? Do you feel like it's harder for them to get into a rhythm versus wanting to ride the hot hand?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Bill, just to follow up on my previous question, you mentioned addressing it. How does that come up? Does it come up in team meetings, individual one-on-one? How do you try to impart life lessons, maybe not just about this conduct outside the field, but other things?
Yeah, all of the above, multiple. Yeah. Other people have talked about it as well to the team. That aren't members of the team, but people we've brought in, so forth. So we've adjusted.
Front row on the left, coach.
Yeah, Bill, looking at Duke's offense, I know you talked about Mensah, but I mean, they've had games this year where they obviously getting some 40s as far as points per game and things like that. They're one of, I guess, the better points per game teams when it comes to the ACC. Looking at both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively, I guess if they did get into a situation where, Duke's high scoring and you may, quote unquote, need to get into a shootout, I guess kind of what is the, confidence you have in the offense to keep up, and then also just in the defense to, kind of limit their production.
Right. Well, I mean, there have been games where they've given up points, games where they've scored a lot of points. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see how it matches up against us. But look, we send the offense out on the field to score. That's their job. That's what they want to do. That'll continue to be our goal every week. And that's what we're putting them out there for. Defensively, we send our defense out there to prevent our opponents from scoring. And so some games we've done a better job than that than others, but that's our goal every week. I mean, I don't really see that changing.
Bill, rivalries in college football are unique. These are your first experiences for you dealing with this as a head coach. How do you go about communicating and motivating and inspiring when it is a rivalry game as opposed to a non-rivalry game that's also part of the schedule?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, every game is, decided between the white lines and, how the players perform, how the teams perform. So, there's a lot of rivalry and emotion in the game, but ultimately the game will come down to the execution of it. And I've been involved in a lot of rivalries, maybe not in college, but there have been some pretty intense rivalries that I've been a part of. But ultimately it comes down to, how you play, how you perform. And when the ball's kicked off and the game starts, I mean, it's really all about playing the game, doing your job, trying to defeat your opponent. And I'm sure that's what this game will come down to too.
Time for one more, Michael.
Bill, Duke's offensive numbers are obviously very good, but Virginia had a lot of success against them last week over in Durham. What was it that they were doing that you saw that really limited what Duke was able to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, I think Duke's, defensively had some plays I'm sure they'd like to have back. We feel the same way. You have a couple bad plays and things look a lot different than if you didn't have those, sometimes 2 or 3 handful of plays. And so, they had a couple plays that really hurt them. And you take those plays away, and it's a little bit of a different game. So, again, I always look at a team as, I expect their best. I expect that we'll see Duke's best on Saturday. And so if we make a mistake against them, defensively, I think Mensah, we had to prepare for him to, to hurt us with it. And, if we make a mistake offensively, like those linemen will, there'll be TFLs and sacks and negative plays, so, I respect their coaching, I respect their scheme, I respect their players, and I respect their competitiveness, and they've showed that multiple times this season. I'm sure we'll get their best. Hopefully they'll get ours, and we'll see what happens.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, all right, thank you.